Good morning, folks. You got Shirley here, and this is Life Through My Lens as an optician with 30 years of experience. It's not too cold today, but the roads are kind of slick. I think it must have warmed up and then froze over, because I was like really inching out the house with this slick sidewalks and road. Okay, guys, how y'all doing this morning? Today I want to talk about some lens options. So let's get right into it. Okay. The important thing to remember is you need to allow your prescription to guide your lens options, if that makes sense. In other words, what you choose as far as your lenses go should really be dictated by what your prescription is. Now, again, there are exceptions to that, like I tell you every day. But that's the exception to the rule. The general rule is to let your prescription guide your lens option choices. Okay. So, we have single vision. Single vision just means there's one focal point in the lens. So that focal point could be at distance, or it could be at near. In other words, you could need glasses to see far away, or you could need glasses to see up close. And you have the option of getting single vision, meaning one focal point. Now, like I said, if you need glasses to read, I would suggest you do a multifocal. Okay, because that's going to allow you to see, and you won't have to take your glasses on and off. If you need glasses to read, but you decide you're just going to get distance lenses that just correct your distance, what's going to happen is when you want to read something, when you look down at it, you're not going to be able to see it unless you get a multifocal. Or take your glasses off. Sometimes taking the glasses off is an option. But to me, that doesn't make sense, because that means you're constantly taking your glasses on and off, on and off. So you take them off and then you move around, you forget, where did I put them? That kind of thing. So in my opinion, you just need to let that prescription dictate what you get. If it says you need reading, even if you don't have correction at distance, so your distance vision is good, but you need correction for reading, I still recommend a multifocal. And a lot of people say, well, I don't need them to see far away. Yes, but if you get reading only, when you look up at distance, you're not going to be able to see. So again, you're going to be wanting to take them off. And then you're going to be like, where did I put my glasses? I lost my glasses. I see it every day. People get to that age, 40 and up, and they fight it. They don't wanna wear bifocals. I don't need bifocals. I can see fine to read. Until you put your glasses on. When you put your glasses on, because you can't see far away, when you look down, you can't read unless you take those glasses off. Unless you have a multifocal. So stop fighting it. Go ahead and own it. Wear your age like the crown that it is. You've earned it. Okay, so your options there are single vision. And you can do a lined bifocal or trifocal. So a lined bifocal is going to allow you to see far away and up close. aligned trifocal is going to let you see far away, up close, and it's also going to give you that mid-range distance. Mid-range is like looking at the dashboard in your car. Or say you play in a band, the music on your stand is mid-range, because it's going to be smaller print, but it's not going to be right here. It's going to be a ways away from you. If you're sitting at a computer, more often than not, that's mid-range. It's a little farther away than reading. Reading distance is about a nice bend in the arm, which is about 16 inches. Once you get past that 16 inches, then you're in mid-range. The older you get, the more you progress, and you'll need something to see mid-range. You'll need more than just up close and far away. It's just the fact of aging. Okay, so then there's the progressive. A progressive lens is really similar to a trifocal in meaning that it has that mid-range distance and up close, but there's no line. Why they call it a progressive is because the power progressively changes in the lens, from your distance correction down to your reading. There's a bunch of different distances in there. Now, what you give up or what you have to adapt to, I mean, like with anything, if something is new, you got to learn how to use it. But the difference between the lined and the progressive is that any progressive is designed, it has a little bit of edge distortion. So you have to become a head turner and point your nose at what you're looking at. Even up close when you're reading, you got to find that sweet spot, move your head across the page. So that's the adaptation to a progressive. When you're walking down steps and stepping over curbs and all that, you have to learn where to hold your head so you don't fall or trip. So, but go ahead and let your prescription dictate the lens options that you go with. Okay, so we talked about single vision, bifocal, trifocal, progressive. Hey guys, if you like this information that I'm giving and you want to see more, subscribe and share it with a friend. But okay, now let's talk about different things you can add to your lenses. Now, if your prescription is at a certain point and your optician can help you decipher this part, you're going to want to go with a different material. The materials that are out there are plastic, polycarbonate, Trivex, and high index. Plastic is your basic lens material. It's a little bit thicker and heavier than the other options, but if your prescription dictates it, you can go with plastic. It's not to the point of where it's super heavy unless your prescription is out of the parameters recommended for it. And then you have polycarbonate. Polycarbonate is a material that it's thinner and lighter weight, and it's also impact resistant. So polycarbonate is recommended. Mostly the biggest recommendation is that it's lighter weight, thinner than your plastic. So there's those parameters again. It's also impact resistant, so it's recommended for children. And it's recommended for anyone that has maybe lost their sight in one eye and they want to really protect their good eye because it's very impact resistant. And then you have something called Trivex. Trivex is a little bit thinner than poly, but not as thin as high index. In my experience, you can get a line bifocal in Trivex. You may be able to get a line lens in high index, but I haven't seen it. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I haven't seen it. In my work environment, I've never seen it. So you may be able to get that Trivex to get that lens a little thinner for that line bifocal or trifocal. Then you have your, and going back to polycarbonate. Polycarbonate has a high ABI value, meaning the higher the prescription, the more aberrations the lens is going to have. It's just a characteristic of the material. And some people can't adapt to the high ABI value. They're what we call poly non-adapt. They can't wear polycarbonate. They what's the word I'm looking for? They complain of things like it looks like a fishbowl. So things are kind of distorted, or like a mirror at a circus. So some people just can't wear it because of that. Alright, so getting back to your high index is going to be the thinnest and the lightest material. It's also going to have the best optics. So if you want the creme de la creme of lenses, you want to get that high index material. That's going to get you the best optics, and it's going to be the thinnest and the lightest weight. Now, pair that high index lens with your HD progressive, and you have a really good combination. That lens is going to be of good quality. So those are the materials that you can have your lenses made out of. Okay. Other options. So there's anti-reflective coating, and this is a coating that cuts glare. It's a clear coating. It doesn't have a tint on it or anything, and it's gonna cut glare from like overhead lighting. It's gonna cut glare at night from oncoming headlights. It's going to allow you to see better because it's going to cut the glare. Every time I tell someone, you've had anti-reflective coating, because at one point in time my company used to include it and they didn't charge for it. Now we charge for it. And so when we're telling people, well, you had this before and it's $40, they're like, oh, I don't need that, because they don't want to pay for it. But then they get the glasses, and I want to say 85 to 90% of the time they come back and they're like, oh, I just didn't realize how much of a difference that coating made. In other words, they miss it when they take it away, not listening to their optician. I'm not going to sit here and say I know everything, because I don't. But if I'm recommending something, I'm an optician that has integrity. I'm not just going to sell you something just to sell it to you. That's not how I operate. I'm going to sell you the things that you need. So you got anti-reflective coating. That's an important one. You should get it. It helps with glare, and because of that, it gives you clearer vision, especially if it's paired with your HD lens and your high index. Now, like I said, your prescription dictates whether or not if you need high index, and if you're polysensitive, meaning you don't adapt to polycarbonate. So you have to take all things into consideration. Your next lens option, a blue light filter. In this day and age, I really recommend everyone has a blue light filter. Just about all of the lenses that we offer where I work, the blue light is included. There are some options where you have to add it, but if you get the better lenses, the blue light is going to be included. Okay, now blue light is emitted from the sun. So just being outside, blue light is also emitted from any type of screen. Now everybody spends time on screens now. You're looking at your phone, you're looking at your computer, your laptop, your iPad. You know, you got your gamers that sit in front of a television, you know, many hours out of the day, or somebody that sits at a computer for their job. You are exposed to blue light on a higher level. So blue light causes eye fatigue and eye strain. So if you're experiencing that and you fall into one of those categories where you're looking at a screen the majority of the day, I suggest you make sure your lenses include a blue light filter. Now, the lens will have a little bit of a tinge of blue to it, but not anything that's noticeable when someone looks at you. You can see it when you look at the lens, but when somebody looks at you, the lens looks clear. Okay, your next option is going to be transition lenses. Transition is a lens, I call it a comfort lens, because it's not truly a sunglass. Okay, it adapts to your lighting situation. So in other words, it darkens down when you're out in sunlight. It needs UV light. The standard one needs UV light to darken. So it doesn't matter if it's a cloudy day or a bright day. The sun is giving off UV rays either way. So you have a few different options on the transitions. For transitions, you have your standard transition. And then you also have your extra active. Now your extra active works behind the windshield. Now, if you remember, I said you need UV light for these lenses to activate and darken. Most windshields, depending on how old your car is, block UV. So the standard ones don't darken behind the windshields. You have to get the extra active. The extra active darkens and lightens a little quicker, and it gets a little darker as well. Then you have transition mirrors, which is what I have, which is why I have that pink color to my glasses. My glasses, when they darken down, they have a rose-colored mirror to them. Okay, looking at me on this camera, it looks like it's really prominent, but that reflection, you can see it, but it's not as prominent as it looks. When you're looking at me, you can still see my eyes, unless my lenses are darkened down. So the mirrors come in, I think they all darken down to a gray tint, but the mirror portion comes in rose gold, silver, and gold. That's what I want to say. And then the transitions themselves, if you get regular transitions or extra active, it comes in gray, green, or brown. So you've got those options. A gray tint is going to give you more true to life color. A brown tint is going to contrast. Anything that's got brown or kind of on the yellowish, brownish, amberish, it's going to give you contrast. So if you golf, it's suggested that you get a brown sunglass because it's going to allow you to see the ball better on the green. So the green tint, if I remember correctly, and don't quote me on this, but I think I learned at one point in time that Ray-Ban started offering the green tint to pilots, and I guess it helps you to see better that way. But the transition is offered in gray, green, or brown. Most people go with the gray unless they have some kind of special need or they just prefer the way the brown looks. I don't sell a whole lot of green transitions. So we talked about blue light filter, we talked about transitions, we talked about anti-reflective coating. There are some edge treatments you can do to your lens. Lenses naturally have an opaque color to the edges. You can roll and polish your edges. It just looks better cosmetically. It's not this white edge, so it's shiny when you roll and polish it. So that is an option you have to put on your lenses. What other things can you add to lenses? Another type of lens is an office lens. So if you sit at a desk, you can get a lens that's made for computer and reading. You won't be able to really see across the room, but it's made for somebody who's sitting at a desk, and it gives you a nice wide mid-range. Gives you a wider one than a standard progressive would. And the reading area is really wide as well. But the biggest thing to take away from this is you want to let your prescription dictate the type of lenses and some of the options that you opt for. It's really going to make for a better pair of glasses. Okay, so that's really all I got for today. I do have another video that goes into different types of lenses in more detail. Another thing that you might want to add to your lenses, most lenses have it but some don't, is UV protection. Like if you have a clear lens, you want to add UV protection. UV is one of the things that causes cataracts. It's just not good for your eyes, period. So you want to protect your eyes from the ultraviolet rays. Another thing about polycarbonate is that it inherently in the material has UV protection. So you don't have to add it to polycarbonate. But I do recommend that you have it. And you want something that has UVA and UVB protection. And when you're buying sunglasses, just because that lens is dark doesn't mean it has UV protection. So you want to make sure that it says it has UV protection against UVA and UVB. The difference between the two is one causes cancer and one will burn your skin, UVA and UVB. You want to protect yourself from both of those. So check out my other video on lens options. I have a video also on occupational lenses. You might want to check that out because that talks about some other different things for lenses and what type of glasses you should get for the job that you have. But that's all I got for today. It's time for me to start my day. I will see you guys tomorrow.